Welcome to another stop in the GitKraken workshop series. Today's session is Simplify Your Jira Workflows with GitKraken DevEx platform and Git integration for Jira. If you've missed any of our previous workshops, you can get to them through the playlist link below, but let's get into this one. This one's going to be focused on everything Jira. So simplifying your workflows, getting your integration set up, basically taking a little bit of work off your plate to just making it much easier to keep those issues updated and everyone else on your team informed. Your team of presenters today, you have all the product advocates, or most of us, not all of us. Probably a bunch of familiar faces from other workshops that you've seen. Jonathan, who will be kind of covering the GitKraken Desktop side of things. Melise, you've probably seen on some GitLens stuff. And then myself, I'm focused on the Git integration for Jira product. To quickly run through our agenda for the day, we're basically going to walk through how to set up and then do some workflows through the GitKraken DevEx platform. So Jonathan will start us off with GitKraken Desktop and the CLI. Then we'll hand it off to Melise for GitLens and a look at GitKraken Dev. And then we'll round it out with Git integration for Jira, and then get to some questions at the end. A couple of quick notes before we get started, though. If you have any questions that pop up as we're going through, please add them in the Q&A widget. We'll go through those and get to them as we have time. This session will also be recorded, so if you want to go back to refer to something later, you'll have access to that. And then a thank you for attending live. As you might have seen in the emails and on the registration page, you're automatically entered to win a $50 gift card and GitKraken swag, so good luck to everyone with that. Now with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Jonathan.
All right, thank you. And then Ken, I'll take over the screen. And then Ken, do you mind minding the session participant?
You got it.
All right, awesome. All right, everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Sounds like a lot of you here are Jira users who may also be using GitKraken, or perhaps GitKraken is new and you're just looking to see how it integrates with Jira. And so there's lots of good news for those of you who get assigned Jira tickets or who are the ones assigning Jira tickets. Hopefully you'll find something useful here. And I'm going to kick things off by just showing you how to quickly connect the Jira integration in GitKraken Desktop. So for those of you who don't have it connected already, this is the basis, this is the foundation for what I'm going to be showing off today, the benefits. So if you have GitKraken Desktop open, no matter where you are in the application, I'll direct your attention to this gear in the top right corner. And here in the left under integrations is where we have all of our integrations available. And of course, you see here that we have Jira Cloud connected. So I already have it connected. If you are seeing this for the first time, you'll see a green button to hit connect, and that'll take you through a flow. I'm not going to go through that just to save a few minutes so I could show off some of the key benefits of using the integration. But if you have permission to connect to your Atlassian account, then you should be able to make the connection with GitKraken. If you are someone who needs administrator help, that might be a good time to send them a message and see if they can help you get this thing connected. The other thing I'll point out is that the issue tracker is repo specific. So we're going to be using Jira today, but you could decide to use GitHub issues for a different repository. But if you're someone who's joining us today and you're exclusively in Jira, you don't really plan to use any of the issue trackers, again, from the preferences menu, top right corner, bottom left, at the very bottom is this issue tracker, and you can set Jira as not only the issue tracker for this repository, but you can check this box to make it the default issue tracker for any repos that you open in the future. So that's enough preferences and settings. Thanks for your patience there. I know like looking at menus is not always the most fun thing, but what do you get as a result of going through the trouble of connecting your issues with GitKraken? And so you may already be seeing here, but over here on the left, this is what we call the left panel of GitKraken Desktop. So whenever you have a repository open, we will give you the ability to connect to Jira, your Jira board. And so from here, I already have product advocacy. This is the board that I'll be using in today's example. But you could, start typing to filter the list down to the boards that you care about. And once you have a board selected, we have a default filter that will kick in here, and it'll show you all the issues that are assigned to you. So the filter is very simple. It's just looking at the current user being you. But if you're someone who wants to customize this list a little bit further, I'd like to direct your attention to this funnel icon that's right here. You have the ability to create your own filters, and we do use JQL filtering. So let me do, let's see, we'll just call this the Jira demo. So right now I have the JQL filter set to just looking for any projects that are set to product advocacy, but I might care about the assignee being not empty. I'll just say is not, and then I'll select empty. And that's pretty good. I'm happy with this Jira demo. So let's create that filter. And the filter will appear at the bottom of the list. So here you can already see that I have a couple other filters going. So we'll be going through your Jira issues that match that filter. I have 171 that are assigned that are just my issues for this board. And I think if I give it just one more moment here, we'll see how many issues. Here we go. Match my Jira demo filter. So you've probably been seeing as I've been hovering over any of these issues that when you hover over a Jira issue, you do get a quick view into issue details like the title, description, status, and then we have the ability to click into any one of these, and we can look at the issue details directly in GitKraken Desktop. So the benefit here is that I know a lot of us probably just open up another web browser to view the Jira issue directly. I know when we first rolled this out, a lot of users were thankful that we had, the ability to give them Jira issues in dark theme. I know that Atlassian has since rolled that out more recently to users, but it's all here as well in GitKraken Desktop within the context of your Git repository. So from here, you have the ability to edit, your description, your status, add comments. But I think the coolest feature here is the ability to create a branch and associate that branch to this issue. So it's this big green button that I'm hovering over here. I'm going to click on it. And what we do when you click this button is we will pre-populate the branch name with the issue ID and the issue title, which I know is sometimes quite critical for any automations you may have set up, with your remote hosting service that look for branch names that have an issue ID associated to them. And then we ask you, hey, you want to create this branch? What's the base branch going to be? So I have a main branch that we use. I'm going to be using that as my base branch. Then I'll click the button to create a branch. And what that does is we'll open up the repository for you, create the branch, and check it out so that you can get right to work. So this is a great way of, a lot of us are probably like looking at what issues are assigned to us, creating the branch, and then writing the code so that we can eventually create a pull request. GitKraken Desktop does a really good job of combining those steps and hopefully saving you some interstitial steps, because we'll present to you all the issues that you might be assigned and then give you the ability to create a branch from those issues. I do want to quickly jump to show how that looks in a newer feature, I should say. We rolled out a major update back in May of 2024, version 10 for those who are counting, and that's with the Launchpad. So the Launchpad is available from this upper left corner, sorry. And thank you, Toast. I appreciate you there. If it's collapsed, you'll see it just as a rocket ship icon. So again, up here in the upper left corner. So this is available to you all. And the view that you might see first is that we will present you all the pull requests that are assigned to you or associated to you in some way. This is great. I encourage you to explore this, but what I'm going to actually click on is this issues bucket, because we do something very similar for all the issues that are assigned to you. So here I have it set to a workspace. Workspaces in GitKraken are just a group of repos. So I have a group of repos that are specific to our help center, which is available on help.gitkraken.com. I have it set to the Jira Cloud integration that I set up earlier, and I have it set to this Jira board. And so this is the list of issues that I have. I can see who is assigned to each one of these. It looks like Laura and I are working on this one. We already have a branch associated to this issue. So a couple cool things here. I can click on this branch and immediately check it out in the graph. Let me go back to the Launchpad. If you hover over this, you can open up that same issues panel that I was showing you at the very beginning. Here it is, same interactions as before. Or if I see an issue that I want to take and I want to create a branch, we have a quick shortcut that allows you to create that branch, very similar to the flow that I was showing before. One final thing that I'll call out here before I show something, a little bonus here, is that you do have this drop-down menu that allows you to either open the issue directly in Jira. So maybe you do want to do something in the browser version of Jira. You can open the instance up in a separate web browser, but you can also update the status and set it to, I know everyone's status might be a little different. I think this one is using the default, but you can change an issue status just from GitKraken Desktop as well. Okay, I think I have just enough time to show how GitKraken CLI integrates with Jira issues. So if you're someone who doesn't really use GitKraken Desktop, maybe you're just a CLI person, I would like to point your attention to the GitKraken CLI, which adds features to your terminal of choice and makes it so that you can interact with pull requests and issues in ways you may not have before. And so this is just gitkraken.com/CLI in case you want to take a look at it and learn more. But what I have here is I already have a CLI open. I ran the command gk issue list just to save a little bit of time here during the demo. But this returned a list of issues, the same list of issues effectively that we were looking at before. I have the ability, of course, to open this up to click on a URL, open the Jira issue in a new view. But I think what would be more interesting is if I showed off that same, let me clear this out. I'm going to run the command gk launchpad, and I'll bump up the zoom here and hit enter. And so this will create the launchpad, but rendered for the CLI. So you're again looking at a list of pull requests, and I'm using the up and down arrow keys to show you different pull requests that are in different statuses. So here I have pull requests that are unassigned, some that have merge conflicts. And then if I use the right arrow key, I can look at that same list of issues and interact with them as well. We do have a combined view for those who just want to have a holistic view. And you might be asking, how does it know which pull request to show? This is based on the workspace concept that exists in GitKraken, in not just GitKraken Desktop, but also the GitKraken CLI and the GitKraken.dev, which Melise will show off here in a little bit. But any group of repos that you define, so if you create a workspace, you tell it, hey, look at these 5 repos. We'll use that to search for any pull requests that exist within any of those repos. And then you can define which Jira issues to filter off of. So this behaves very similar to what I was showing before. You connect to Jira, you define the project, and then we'll go ahead and output that list for view right from the CLI. So I'm going to hit escape on the CLI just to exit out of there. I think, Ken, I made my time pretty good. I'll pause there, though, in case there's any questions. Otherwise, I'll hand it over to Melise.
Cool. Looks like there were a few questions that came in. I don't know. Do you want to go through them right now, Ken, or save them for the end?
Jonathan, I'll leave that up to you. Do you want to work through some of these questions now or save them to the end? They're all.
Let's answer a couple of them.
Okay. I'm going to start at the bottom. So there's a question about, is the create a branch for Bitbucket integration, or does it work with Git integration for Jira? So I guess the question is really, to use that create a branch feature, is there any requirements on the other end as far as the providers?
Yeah, I think it's pretty agnostic of whichever remote hosting service. So if I'm understanding the question correctly, the Jira issues, as long as you're connected to Jira, that's the integration that we care about. Whether you're connected to Bitbucket, Azure DevOps, you can have any of those integrations set up, and as long as the Jira issue integration is connected, you can use that create a branch button, just like I demoed earlier.
And then there was another question about updating the Jira issue itself. So is it possible to update, the description or something like that?
Yeah, you can update description, you can add comments, you can edit assignee and status. I think there might be one other field, labels was one that you can edit. Most notably, if you have any custom fields, those are not available through the GitKraken Desktop issue view. But hey, if you want to see that, you can go to feature, oh my goodness, feedback.gitkraken.com. I got there. We have a lot of feature requests that users upvote. There's probably one that exists right now that you could probably upvote, again, from feedback.gitkraken.com. Great question.
And then another quick one, is this a free or a paid feature in GitKraken Desktop?
I believe this one's available to everyone. The thing here with GitKraken Desktop is that we look at private versus public. So yeah, if you have a public repo and you want to have all these connections, then you should be able to do it with any of those repositories. When you try to open a private repository, that's where we do ask for a license.
Great. There's a couple of other questions, but I'm going to hand it over to Moise and we will run through the rest of these at the end. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Ken and Jonathan. Let me go ahead and screen share here. So I promise we won't take up too much time about GitLens because this is a Jira workshop, but I did want to showcase, if you're not familiar with GitLens, GitLens is the top extension on the VS Code marketplace right now. We've got 30 million installs on there, and essentially GitLens gives you the ability to visualize code authorship at a glance and uncover a ton of information you may have not even known existed about your repositories. So it has a plethora of features, which we won't go through all of them today, but a few of them that I want to showcase are things like the rich Git blame commit graph. And we'll dedicate, I promise, a workshop in the future to going through GitLens specifically. But we'll tie this together neatly with showing how you can go directly from GitLens right into GitKraken.dev, which is essentially going to be your command center in the browser that bridges the gap between Jira, GitLens, and all the other services offered in the GitKraken DevEx platform. So real quick, again, let's take a quick tour of GitLens just to familiarize yourself with what you're looking at here. If you've used GKD in the past, you're probably familiar with the commit graph, which I have open right here. But one of the main things GitLens is known for is our inline blame functionality. So if you're typically coding or you're working with a team that is typically in the actual editor or their IDE, you can actually visualize right here specific authorship about this commits, about the actual line history, and different aspects of the actual file by tapping GitLens inspect over here. Now, this is really neat because it actually gives you the ability, which I'll showcase in a second, how it'll give you the ability to bridge the gap between your actual inline blame annotations and Jira, and actually see specific issues directly in the IDE itself and access those right from the IDE. Now, one other cool thing too I want to showcase is visual file history. This might be useful if you want to kind of get a grasp on what's been changing in the file. Let me enlarge this here so you can kind of see. So based on time periods, this is a great way to visualize who's actually making the most contributions to a project, or specifically who's adding, deleting stuff. It kind of gives you a top-down oversight into the specific file history and helps you isolate kind of the most important pieces and contextual places that things might happen. That could be bugs, that could be contributions from the team to a specific section of code. Very powerful stuff. And this is all baked into the GitLens feature sets. So, and if you're familiar with the commit graph, it might look very similar. There are a few features here that we have that are really powerful, like the activity mini map here, which allows you to kind of jump through time based on contributions, additions, and changes. And then you can actually see here the standard commit graph that we use across the GitKraken DevEx platform. One neat thing about if you're using GitLens, I always encourage people to try is just right-clicking on this. It gives you another set of detailed information, like creating a branch, checking out a branch, and then also for commits, you can do specific things too. Now, let's go over here and take a look at the GitKraken account. So when you access from GitLens specifically under the GitLens home icon, which is right here, when you install the GitLens extension, this icon will appear. So this one, you can easily access cloud patches, workspaces, and at the very bottom here is going to be your GitKraken account. So if you already have a GitKraken account, that's perfect. And if you don't, you can start a trial and it'll ask you for some information. But once you create an account, you can access right here via cloud integrations or manage account. So I'm just going to tap manage account. It's going to open up GK.dev, which is GitKraken.dev. Cool. So once you're on GitKraken.dev, like I said, this is basically your command center. Let me enlarge this here so we can kind of see. There we go. So no more hide and seek with project updates. .dev unifies your entire development projects and team statuses here, providing a clear insight into workflows that kind of give you a better way to align efforts and just reduce errors in general. Now, Jonathan showcased earlier Launchpad inside of GKD. So this is Launchpad inside the browser. And this is kind of where you want to start your day. I mean, with Launchpad, you can view all your issues. You can see here pull requests directly from your browser. And if you need to identify priority PRs, the Launchpad also organizes your pull requests and issues by status, allowing you to quickly kind of address blockers, maintain project momentum. So it's a great way to kind of kick off the day. The other thing that I want to call is suggested changes here. So you see these are code suggestions. Now, code suggestions let you easily kind of review code revisions directly from the browser and even open them inside of GitKraken Desktop or in VS Code. So if I tap this, it'll actually fetch the change. Well, this is actually my sandbox change, but essentially it allows you to, actually review your team's code suggestions, and you can approve the commit code changes directly to your PR from here, or you can open them up directly inside of one of the surfaces. So let me minimize this. Let's go back to the main command center. Now, a couple other things we have here too are cloud patches. So if you need quick feedback on a new feature or fix, for example, cloud patches let you quickly share your commits and work in progress effortlessly right here with other team members. You can distribute these cloud patches, and you can also access them again within the other surfaces of GitKraken. So this is all happening within GitKraken.dev, accessibility and visibility across the board for all the DevEx platform. One other cool thing is workspaces. Now, workspaces is pretty useful to access from here for grouping repositories by project or topic. At least from a browser, creating a workspace is convenient now. You can add or remove repositories as your project develops. And this is a great way kind of to provide access to onboard new developers to projects and reducing the time it kind of takes for them to get on board as well. Now, a couple other things I'll let you guys explore on your own because we're limited on time, but user management is in here. You also have the ability to have centralized security settings as well, and integrations. So integrations, you can see here, this is where we're going to jump back into GitLens, but you can see all the different integration providers you can manage. So I've connected Jira Cloud right here. Now, what this does for me specifically is it allows me to go back into GitLens over here. And from GitLens, I can actually now access, without context switching again, I can access all my different Jira issues that appear via inline blame, wherever they might be located, or even in the commit graph. So you can see down here, I have a commit selected, and you can actually see under auto links in the commit details panel here, I've got some GitHub auto links that will link out to GitHub, but I've also got a Jira integration connected, and I believe, let's see if I click this, there we go, immediately fetches the issue. So this is a great way to simplify your workflow and kind of just quickly gain insight with automatic linking of issues, pull requests, across just not only Jira, but GitHub as well. But it just lets you kind of manage quickly and jump directly into the visibility of what's going on with this specific commit. What is this related to in relation to Jira? And it's a great asset to have. And it'll appear, like I said, in commit details. It'll appear across the board inside of inline blame and other locations inside of GitLens as well, where you'll find different auto links. Cool. So there's a ton of stuff we could go through with GitLens, but I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Ken, and we'll save some of our time today for some more stuff that Ken wants to showcase.
Thanks, Moise. All right. So in our remaining time, I'm going to kind of focus on the Jira side of things. So as you're doing your work and we're associating work to Jira issues, you need some sort of integration that makes that information visible in Jira so that your product managers, project managers basically have visibility into what's going on with these repositories. And we want to tie them to issues. One of the ways you can do that is with our Git integration for Jira app. Which will let you integrate any repository, whether you're using GitHub, GitLab, Azure, with your Jira, and that can be cloud or self-hosted with either Jira or your Git repositories. So I'm first going to take you through a workflow here that, let's say you're assigned a Jira issue and you get an email alert or someone sends you a link to the issue. So we're in Jira now. We're looking at an issue. One thing that we add here is a create branch and create pull request button. So directly within the context of this Jira issue, I can go ahead and create this branch. And then based on the repositories we have connected, I can select the appropriate repository for this and the appropriate source branch that I want to use to create this branch off of. Now, I have my own personal defaults here too. So if there's certain repositories you tend to work with, we can preload that so you're not changing this every time. And then we pre-populate the branch name as well. So like we mentioned before, you want to include the Jira issue key to associate all this different work to an issue. So your admin that sets this up can basically set up this naming template. So if you have a certain way you want your branches to default to be named, whether that's bringing in the Jira issue key or some other variable, we can pre-populate that. So this flow is really as simple as you open this up and click create branch. So once I do that, the branch is created, and then we can actually jump out to that branch and continue our workflow. So once the branch is created, Git integration for Jira, anywhere we see a commit or branch or any sort of repository associated item, we'll have links to the web interface for your repository, and then also deep links out to GitKraken Desktop and GitLens. So for this particular example, I'm going to deep link out to GitKraken Desktop. And I'm going to check out this branch. And just make a small change here. So I created my branch, I changed some files, I did my work. Now I'm going to make a commit. So I'll stage these changes, and like I mentioned before, we're going to include the issue key. And what we can also do is use smart commits. So in our commit message, we can make changes to the Jira issue through our commit message. So in this case, I'm going to transition this issue to in progress. And my company makes me log time. So I'm going to log an hour of time, and then also put a comment in the issue that this needs more work. So I'll commit and push. And if I refresh this issue, we'll now see that this issue was moved to in progress. There's Git commits on here. So anyone that's invested in this issue, be it your product manager, your dev team lead, they'll have the info to know that you actually worked on this issue. And then if they want to even view a code diff, they can come in here and look at the changes that were made to the file. So increases visibility for them. You're handling kind of the administrative work through your commit message, so it makes it easier for you. And then one quick thing we'll round out this session with is Jira automation rules. So let's say you don't want to have to remember to include your transition status in your commit message. Wouldn't it be great if you could set up some rules that just say, hey, anytime we make a commit, that should transition an issue to in progress. Your Jira administrator can come into automation and basically add a trigger, and we can look at the DevOps triggers, based on a branch created, commit created, a pull request being open or merged. We can use that trigger to make something else happen. So in this case, we would do commit created. And then when a commit's created, what do we want to do? We want to transition the issue to in progress. And then we can basically turn this rule on. And anytime that you make a commit on an issue, as long as you include that Jira issue key, it's going to handle that transition of the issue. Now, you can do all sorts of other things if you want to send an email or a Slack message or add any other conditions. The automation engine's pretty robust. There's lots of things you can do with it. So this is a really simple example, but just think if you can kind of work with your team and your administrators and say, hey, let's get these 5 rules set up, it'll make your workflows much easier, because then you don't have to remember to kind of do the Jira tasks that we all hate having to remember to do. If you can automate them, it's a much easier process. So there's much more to Git integration for Jira as well that would help your workflows. In the interest of time, we'll pause there though, so we can get to some questions real quick. And let me go through here. There was a question earlier, Jonathan, about do people need to use Jira as the issue tracker to see things on the My Issues tab? And I think this relates to the Launchpad, right?
Yeah, the My Issues view can be, you can configure it to show GitHub issues. Any of the issue trackers that we support, which also includes GitLab issues, Trello. So it's not limited to just Jira. You can use the other issue tracker integrations that we have. Most of the other issue tracker integrations also support the issue view that I was showing for Jira. So all that is there too.
There was a question, does GitKraken have the ability to update the work log of a Jira ticket? Is that possible through the desktop version?
To my knowledge, no. That sounds like a really good one though for the feedback.gitkraken.com one. I can see how that would be useful.
Melise, help me out here if I'm missing anything on the questions too.
Yep.
Can you automatically add the issue key to the commit message? Jonathan, you aware of any way to kind of do that when you're making your commits?
Nothing comes to mind. But I think what we can probably try to do is for any questions that we don't get to on the session, I think we could try to follow up with as many of you as we can and see if we can get you some helpful information that can help you explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a couple of other questions here. So like Jonathan said, we're going to get you all out of here, try to keep us to time, but we'll definitely follow up directly to make sure anyone that did ask a question, we get you a response. So thank you all for joining us again. We really appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening or morning or whatever time it is for you. And we hope to see you on the next one. Thanks again.
Take care, y'all.